Hey guys, Bud here with Dependable Lawn Care, and today I'm going to be installing the PV13 on the 52-inch Z3X and the PV18 on the 61-inch Z3X. Getting those set up and ready to go for the season. Most of our leaves are down. There's still a few that are going to fall, of course, but you know, we mulch them up until the majority of the leaves are down, and then we'll do a final cleanup. Just for reference, all these leaves in my yard over here, I did a full-blown leaf cleanup 2 days ago on my yard. Blew everything out, mulched it all up, and you can see how many leaves are on the ground already. This is clean because I blew it off before I got started, but that's how many leaves had fallen just right in this area in front of the deck. So still a lot of leaves coming down, and we'll still be doing some mulching for a little while, but I want to get my Proteros ready to go. So obviously the mulch kits will have to come off. I'll be taking off the mulch kits, and I'll be taking off the X blades. I'm not sure if I'm going to run a mulching blade or if I'm going to run high lifts with the Protero. It really doesn't matter because the Protero gives it the lift that you need, so really probably whatever's going to mulch the leaves the best is what I'll run. But the one component from the Protero system that stays on all year is this drive pulley. Once you install that drive pulley, and this is on the 61, then I'll show you the drive pulley on the 52, but once that's installed, you just leave it on. It doesn't ever come back off. It just stays on. I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to, but it would be kind of senseless because it really doesn't affect anything. It's not in the way. And then here it is. Here it is on the 52. So, as I said, once I have those installed, then I just leave them on, and it's there when I'm ready to put the bagging system on again for the next season. So the major components are the brackets that go on the back of the mower. Now, you guys, most of you know that the PV18 that goes on the Z3, that actually came off of my John Deere mower. It was made for the John Deere sit-on zero turn. So I modified it myself and made it to where it fits on the Z3. And so the bracket that bolts on back here is of my design. And then the bracket that actually goes on the 52 that the bagger mounts to, that's Protero's design. And honestly, their design is a lot better. The one that I came up with, it works, but when your bagger's not on the mower, it's really in the way. There's a lot to it, and it's just really not ideal. The one that goes on the 52, you'll see when the bagger's not on, when you take the bagger off and those brackets are still on, really isn't in the way. It's really, I like the way it's designed. So we're going to start with the 61-inch, and we'll start with mounting that rear bracket that I spoke of. So you'll have the bracket, and then of course the bagger just basically sits into that bracket once that's installed. And then your blower, which basically hangs off of the deck and has a pin through it, so that's really simple. Drive belt will go on the drive pulley, and then there will be a front weight that sits on this front articulating arm. And I had to kind of come up with my own thing on that as well, because you want to be able to keep that arm where it can move and not be stationary. Pull the 61 up here in front of the garage. That's why I cleaned everything off, and we'll go ahead and get started installing. All right, guys, including the pulley that we talked about that I just leave on, these are the components. You got the front weight, which is extremely heavy. I don't even know what that weighs, but those are solid iron bars. So it's a pretty hefty front weight. Then you've got your blower assembly, which, you know, has custom brackets. It hooks on the deck. You put a pin through it for safety, and then you run your belt. And this belt is 3 seasons old, and you can see it's getting pretty worn on the inside, but it's still working. And I have a spare belt. I keep spare belts on hand for everything. But honestly, as long as it's still working, I'm just going to run it, and when it pops, I'll put a new one on. That's easy to do in the field, just a couple wrenches, so no big deal there. So that's the blower, and then your hose that runs from the blower to the hopper. I'll show you the hopper here in a second. Let me give you kind of a closer look. Now, as I mentioned before, this unit is, let's see, I purchased it in 2016, 2017, so you know, it's 3 or 4 years old. So it doesn't look brand new, but everything is still functional, working great. This is the PV18 hopper. I'm telling you guys, I haven't tried a lot of other bagging systems other than just the, you know, the cloth bag type and the canister type. But these dump from seat, or in this case, dump from where you stand type hoppers, clamshell hoppers, they are nice. I mean, it just, in my opinion, it's the way to go. So the bracket system, or arms and everything underneath, the hopper will actually come off of that, and I just leave it all attached, but it has 4 pins, and you pull those 4 pins, and then the whole hopper system comes off of the bracket system. So depending on how you install it on the mower, that might make it easier for you. What I do is I just have Gage give me a hand, and we just set it on there, because it is heavy for one person. I'm even thinking about maybe making a dolly specifically for this, just for moving it around, so I don't have to drag it around and stuff. But anyway, this is the bracket system that I made, and it's just a simple bolt-on system. You remove this rear wheel, and you don't remove it, I'm sorry. You pull the bolt out for the rear wheel, and you utilize the bolt, and the rear wheel stays in place. But that's for one of the bolts. And then the other bolt bolts into, you can't really see it very well, but there's a hole down here. I think my finger's in the way. You can barely see that right here. So there's a hole down there that it bolts into, and that's it. It's just those 2 bolts. It has more bolt holes, but I don't like drilling holes in my machine. I ran this all leaf cleanup season last year with just the 2 bolts on each side. I never had an issue. It didn't seem like it was too much of a strain on anything, so that's how I prefer to do it. I really don't want to drill any more holes. I'll show you the difference between the bracket systems, but basically the difference is that this being the one I made, you know, this is in your way. So this sticks out behind the mower, and, you know, to step off backwards, you have to step over it. With the brackets that Protero makes, and which I'll probably eventually get for this mower and replace this one, there's square tubing right here, and the unit fits into that square tubing. So when you take the unit off, all you have is that bracket that sticks out, you know, I don't know how far it sticks out from the mower, a few inches, as opposed to all of this. So it's a much better system, what they make. This is just what I put together with what I had on hand, and it can definitely be improved. So, but it gets the job done. And when you need to take the bagger off and do some work with the mower without the bagger on for a while, it does make it easy to take the bagger on and off and have the bulkiness of it out of the way. Let me walk over here and show you the other bracket system. So this is the PV13, guys, which we'll be putting on shortly. You can see the depth of the hopper. That's the main difference. Holds quite a bit less material, you know, shorter unit, but it's also lighter weight, which is what I wanted for the 52. I needed to be able to fit that 52 in some places that I can't fit the 61. So, of course, you've got your blower system, your hose up here on top, but these are the brackets. So you'll bolt, I'm trying to think, this would be, yeah. So basically on the inside of the fender well, and you'll see this when I put it on, but this bolts on, and then you basically have this part right here. I think from where my thumb is at out is how much sticks out. So if that's correct, it's I want to say it's only like 3 or 4 inches that actually sticks out. It's really not bad at all. Again, it has a place for 3 bolts. I only use 2. I'm just not a big fan of drilling a bunch of holes in my machines. But anyway, and then of course the front weight for it is down there. And this is how I currently store it. It's just underneath my deck, which has a roof over it, so it keeps the rain off of it. Of course, it gets dusty and filthy, and the birds like to perch on it and poop all over it, all that lovely stuff. But it does help keep the whole unit in good shape. It doesn't get exposed to a lot of sunlight and the the rain and all of that. So that's kind of how I keep them, at least for now. Down the road, maybe I can do something a little better to keep them out of the dust and stuff as well. But anyway, let's go ahead and get this bracket bolted on. It's the first thing I'm going to do, and then once that bracket's bolted on, then the unit just sits right into that bracket. So let's get that done. So what I've done is I took the nut off of this bolt on both sides, and I just pulled the bolt back to where it's flush. Same over here. I took the 2 shorter bolts out of the bracket, and so now, like I said, I don't know if I'll be able to do this with one hand, but I'm going to try. I tried, but I couldn't do it with one hand, so it's just sitting on there with the bolts in place. You can see that bolt right there. I run it inside the fender, and then of course this bolt is just running through. So all I've got to do is put the nuts on, tighten them up. You can kind of see the bolt sticking out down there. But nothing's in the way. Nothing takes up any space. The only thing is that now you have this bracket back here. And that's the only thing I don't like about my design, the way I did it, is that you got that sticking out in your way. I will eventually change that, but it's not bad. I mean, getting on and off the mower, not a big deal. You can step off backwards. You just have to step over that bracket. Of course, when you've got the bagger on, you have to step off to the side anyway, so that's not an issue. But that's it on that part. Get the nuts on here, get this tightened up, and we'll move on to the next piece. I've got the hopper moved around in position where I can put this on by myself, so let me show you how this works. Just wanted to show you that you can put it on by yourself. It's not ideal. It's nice to have a second hand, but it can be done. So anyway, now that's on, and you can see how much room it gives you on the platform. So you've got plenty of room to stand comfortably, operate. Now I do have the hopper tilted back slightly. I did that on purpose because it does dump a little bit better with it tilted just slightly back. It's not a lot, not enough that anybody but me would probably notice, but and then I went ahead and set the blower on, ran the belt. As you can see, it does a crisscross in the middle, but the belt doesn't touch itself. It just crosses over. And now I've got to throw the front weight on, which is just U-bolt on each end, and it bolts right onto the arm. So let's get that on there. Alright guys, show you my little cheat here for doing this by yourself. It is probably not impossible, but pretty close to it, to try to hold that weight and get the bolts dropped in, and then put this plate and the nuts on both sides. And until you do that, there's nothing keeping that weight on the arm. So I set this 5-gallon bucket here, and it's almost the perfect height where I can just set it on that, get my bolts and brackets going, and then once I tighten up the bolts, so let me show you how it sits. It sits out a little bit further than it needs to, but that's fine. I mean, it keeps it out of the way up here where it needs to pivot. It's obviously not touching any moving parts on either side for the deck. You know, this arm right here moves forward and backward when you're raising and lowering the deck. So you've got to stay out of the way of that. So anyway, get these nutted up real quick, and then everything will be on except for the hose. All right, guys, so PV18 is on the Z3X. Now, the great thing about this is that we're not done mulching leaves yet, so I'm not quite ready to use the bagging system. I'm just getting everything set up. So all I've got to do is pull the blower off, or the impeller. I've got to pull that off, which is just a single pin, no big deal. Unhook the belt, which is also no big deal. It's just spring loaded. Of course, pop the hose off, pull the hopper off of that bracket, and then the only thing that stays on the mower is the bracket, the front weight, and that pulley, and none of which affect your ability to continue mowing, mulching, etc. until you're actually ready to pull, or ready to use your bagger, which is what I'll be doing. Also want to note the tweels. I will not be running the bagging system with the tweels. When I actually get ready to run this bagging system, I will pull the tweels off and put the factory wheels back on, and I'm gonna have some new tires on those that are just going to be for when I'm running the bagging system. And you guys will see those coming up soon. But that's it, that's the PV18. So now we're ready to probably stop this video here, and I'll go ahead and pick up the next video doing the 52-inch, because this does take a little bit of time to put one of these videos together. As far as how long it takes to put it on. Now, actual time with me videoing and everything, it only took me about an hour to pull this out, put everything together, and other than pulling the mulch kit the rest of the way off, it's actually ready to go. I could take off and go bag some leaves right now. So, about an hour to install everything. Now, if you're installing this system for the first time, you're going to want to watch a little bit more detailed video on it, and I would give yourself probably close to half a day to do all the installation, because you are going to have a couple of holes to drill. You're going to have a lot of adjustments to make as far as putting the blower on and getting it adjusted to your deck, and a lot of assembly that's required, if you're getting this system new, that is. So anyways, that's it on this video, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Get out there and make some money, and we'll catch you on the next one.